think we're live. Good evening, everybody. 6th of August, Tuesday evening, 8 o'clock. My name is Eric. We're going to do another webinar again. Gosh, happy to see a lot of people here. We're on Facebook tonight. We're on Zoom. We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're some other platforms as well. Welcome, everybody. I see some familiar names. It's really great. Let me see who we have. Jack, welcome back. That's great to have you. Jorge Luis. Not sure if we met before, but welcome. Lauren, I see you in the picture. That's great. Welcome. We have Macy here. Welcome. Mika, I think you're Dutch just like me, Tolentino. Good to see you. Padraig, nice. So we have an Irish person in our midst. That's fantastic. Ping Tao, nice to see you too. Let's see, what else do we have? Well, that's pretty much it that I have on Zoom right now. Anita, did I mention you? I think I did. Anyway, welcome back. It was good to have you again. Good. So we actually had a lot of registrations tonight. As usual, it's summertime. Not everybody shows up, which is normal. It's been a fantastic day. We had a nice sunshiny weather, a very, very good summer day. So okay, maybe some more people may pop in tonight. That's fine. Yeah, what I wanted to say, we had a lot of registrations, which is quite cool. So apparently this whole thing about procrastination seems to be quite a subject for people. So we're gonna cover that tonight. Why do we procrastinate? And even better, what can you do about it? Yeah. Basically, what I want to go into tonight is what we can actually do about it. To lessen it, there's even a way to completely eliminate it. So let me start with a little introduction about myself. My name is Eric. As you can probably tell by my accent, I'm not Irish, although I am in Dublin at the moment in Ireland. I'm actually Dutch. I'm from Holland. Been in Ireland now for 2 years. One of my passions is to basically absorb data and then pass it on to others. So that's one of my main purposes in life is, yeah, you know, share knowledge, share information. Let's make it a better world. Maybe it sounds very altruistic, but that gives me a lot of joy. So maybe you do too. I hope I'm going to be able to impart some really good information with you tonight. Now, before getting started, as you can imagine, all that I see is a camera in front of me. You guys see me? But I would like to see you, and if not, know something about you. Maybe you want to share in the chat. The chat is wide open. Maybe you want to share in the chat, where are you from? And why in particular you chose this webinar about procrastination. Maybe you want to drop a line there quickly in the chat. Where are you from? And maybe if you're really quick on the keyboard, maybe you also want to leave some comment about why you're actually attending this webinar tonight. I'll wait for a second. I made myself a very, very nice ginger tea. I put some, let me see, I put some cayenne pepper in it. I put some cloves in it. I put some honey in it. It's going to be spicy tonight. We're in a little studio here. It's a lot of lights. It's actually quite warm. So, but I think we'll handle that for the next hour. All right, Lauren. So you're from Yorkshire in England. Okay, fantastic. Kyle, good to see you again. Okay, you're here to gain knowledge. Fantastic. All right. Now I'm gonna put something on the board behind me. Just keep the chats coming, guys. And I'll pick them up in a second. Ping Tao, hello, I'm from China. Wow, that's amazing. That is amazing. Are you actually following this webinar from China right now, or are you in another continent? Drop us a line again, Ping. That is, or should I say Ping Tao, perhaps? By the way, it's great. It's great to see you online. Myron from Cleveland, Ohio, tired of missed deadlines, procrastination, and tax. Hey, Myron, that's great. Actually, been years ago, but I did a visit to your city. Actually, been to Cleveland, Ohio. Very, very similar to Northern Europe, climate-wise, at least. But I loved it. So I'm very happy to see you online. All right. So I hope my English is okay with you guys. I just put the word there, procrastination, and for people who look up words in etymology books, if you actually look for the root, the root source of the word itself, very often you stumble upon Latin words. And a lot of English is actually derived from Latin. Also, procrastination. This actually comes from so far we're all the same, nare. That is from Latin, procrastinare. Pro basically means forward. Pras means tomorrow. Well, should I say anything else? Well, I guess that explains it, right? So it's a funny thing. It comes from Latin. Even apparently the Latin people, the Romans, the Italians, already had a word for people who would actually procrastinate. So it's nothing new. If you think it's just you, that shows you it's been going on for a long time. It's a known phenomenon, and quite earlier on, probably some 1,000 years ago, people already had a word for it. Good. Let me see who's here. Macy Tai, you're from Toronto, Canada. Procrastinate all my life. It's taking a toll of my life. I totally get that. All right. So, you know what, Macy? I can tell you something can be done about it. That's the good news. Anita from West Midlands, UK. I tend to procrastinate, especially when I don't want to do a particular task and want to stop doing it. Lawrence, happy to be here. Great. I love it. Okay, guys, so my eyes are a bit small. I've been on tour for 3 days in Ireland. I had a little sleep, so if you think that I look tired, that's actually true. Nevertheless, don't bother. You know, that's just what it is. We're not gonna procrastinate. So this whole field of procrastination, just let me come up with one thing, because it might sound a bit like a mental health kind of thing. Am I right? It might sound like a bit of a mental health kind of thing. And and people are very suspicious when it comes to mental health. People are very suspicious, and for a good reason. You know, there's been a lot of, well, let's say, labeling in psychiatry. You know, you have, doctor, one day I'm up, the next day I'm down. What's wrong with me? Oh, you're bipolar. Boom, there's your label. That's what it is. So, and people have become very suspicious of mental health. There's been a lot of foolishness. You have, I don't know, kind of like barbaric treatments, even like electroshocks and lobotomies and what have you. So, for a good reason, people are not really in agreement with that. Now, having said that, it doesn't mean that everything that's out there with regards to mental health is all bad. There's actually some pretty good stuff lying around for you. The main thing is that you have to find it. Okay, so the whole idea about me saying is that I intend to give you something tonight that you could actually hopefully apply to your life, apply to your work, and use. Now, good. We're going to do a little warm-up question. Yeah, a little side story here. When I was 4 years old, I got into the car of my dad. I had no clue. Still today, I had no clue what I did, but I actually managed to get the car rolling. I actually managed to get the car started. I couldn't even really see over the dashboard because I was too small as a kid, but I managed to get the car started and rolling. And fortunately, my dad came in time. He rushed over. I opened the door, and he turned off the car. Now, I still had quite some some space to make it to the wall. Fortunately, I didn't get there, but this is where I'm going with that little story. Yeah? Have you ever tried to control something that you had no knowledge about? Have you ever tried to control something that you had no knowledge about? Yeah? Think of something that occurred to you in your life that you, maybe as a kid even, right? Or maybe later on, you wanted to control something, but you didn't really have any knowledge about it. Did it ever occur to you? If it's too much to put a story in the chat, you can just say yes or no. I always tend to ask a lot of questions to make things a bit more easy to understand. Yeah, because we're going to actually cover something tonight that has to do with knowledge, with responsibility, with control, so for that reason, I gave you that little anecdote there. Me, as a very, very young kid, 4 years old, getting into my dad's car. I was trying to control my dad's car. Obviously, I didn't know anything about it, but for some reason, I got it moving. So did you ever try to control something that you didn't have any knowledge about? Okay, Anita, thank you very much. Not that I can think of. Okay, well, does the question make a little bit of sense to you guys? Is it a sensible question? Can you think with the question? Maybe I should phrase it that way. Lauren, I tried to ride a scissor scooter down a hill. Too big, unwise. Did not know the scooter would move in an unstable way and the hill was too steep. Yeah, fantastic answer. Fantastic example, Lauren. Thank you so much. Okay, yeah, I think that will hit home with most of us, right? We're trying to get on a, maybe we're trying to get on a scooter, or perhaps let's say your first time on a farm, you're putting yourself on a tractor, or you put yourself on a motorbike, and you're trying to control these damn things without any knowledge. Yeah. So let's do a first slide. Instead of putting things here on the whiteboard, I got some slides for you. We're gonna change the formula a little bit. So I want to share with you a slide about the KRC triangle, and that's I hope that's going to come up right now. There we have it. Good. So here we have a triangle, and you see three words in that triangle. You have knowledge, you have responsibility, and you have control. Good. So why is it a triangle? Yeah, first of all, why is this so symbolic? Well, one of the things with a triangle is that you can let's say you can increase one corner, and it would also increase the other corners. So let me give you an example how that works. Let's say I have a triangle here, and I'm increasing one corner. And as a result, what you will see is that other corners will expand with them as well. Good. So we're going to go to the next slide and just clear up a few definitions here. And the next one would be knowledge. Good. So what is knowledge? You could say knowledge is known information, learning, practical skill, being certain. Well, what do we mean by known information? Just a little bit more in depth. If you look what's going on the planet today, you could actually see that we're drowning in information. And it is good to distinguish the fact that there is actually true data and there's actually false data. In other words, there's true information and there's false information. Now, it doesn't mean that whatever people put on paper, in books and newspapers and magazines, what have you, it doesn't mean that whatever is on paper is necessarily true. The result that we want to get from information is that we can actually apply it and that we can actually get a desired result. Yeah. So you could let me go completely. Let me derail completely here and say, you know, electroshocks really make people better. Well, you could take that as a datum, but then if we actually apply it, we'll find out that somebody's IQ will just plummet. His capacities will just plummet, right? So the person doesn't really get better. Yeah. In other words, there is known information, true data, false data. Could you put up that slide again, please? Good. All right. So let's say we have the data. Okay. We absorb it, which is to say, we're taking the dictionaries there. We're getting the full understanding of words, right? And now we're actually going to exercise with it. And the result should be an absolute certainty. Yeah, we're going to look a bit more at that tonight, but the result should be an absolute certainty. Yeah, that you can actually use the data again and again and again and again, and you're certain that every time you're going to get the same desired result. Then you would actually say, well, you know what? I am knowledgeable on that particular subject. Good. Let me ask you a question. So if you think about, for example, you know, driving your car, you would say, okay, you know what? I've driven it so much. I've tested it up to its maximum speed. I've gone over the speed bumps. I have serviced it. I know a lot about my car. So, and whenever I had a question, I would go on YouTube. I would read a manual or something. In other words, you gained a certain certainty because you gained information and data, you practiced, and it resulted in more certainty and more knowledge about the car, so to speak. And maybe you've done the same thing, for example, let's say a computer, right? Now, maybe you want to share here in the chat a specific area where you feel you are really certain. Would that be your work? Would that be, for example, dealing with people? Would that be operating the cashier? Would that be, for example, well, I don't know, knowing what you have in stock, if you have a company, for example, or just think of an area where you feel you're really certain, and share that with us. Yeah, share the area in the chat where you feel, okay, I do have that certainty in that area in my life. Okay, let's see what we have. Oh, guys, you've been really busy, and I've not been really following the chat. Okay, Laurie, I'm really certain at boiling eggs. Yeah, I mean, how simple can it be? But you do have the certainty, right? It was hard to know at first what length of time to use, but you're able to see inside the egg until you actually know how to run it, yeah? But I've practiced and I've achieved certainty. Good. That's just brilliant. Let's see if we have another one there. Tried to carry a baby down the stairs when I was 3, but then found out I didn't know how to lift it up as a baby. Lift up a baby more than half of my size. Ending up and dropping him on the floor. Macy tight. That was the previous question, right? Okay, cool. Thank you for that. All right. Out of whale, I'm really certain about my job as a hotelier. Good. Fantastic. Now, okay. So now let's revert it. Let's go into the other direction. Can you see an area in your life where you are lacking the knowledge and the certainty to do better? I'll give you a few hints. So let me ask that question again. Can you see a certain area, maybe more than one, but can you see a certain area in your life where you lack the knowledge and the certainty to actually do better. So, for example, when it comes to dealing with people, right? How about communication? How about making relationships work? Right? How about handling others? How about tools for your work? Yeah. Do you see an area in your life where you're lacking information and certainty to make things go better? Okay. Making new friends. All right. Well, that's a brilliant one, because making new friends, hey, you gotta you gotta know who to trust, right? You gotta know who to choose to, to associate with in your life. And of course, a lot of people make mistakes there. Sometimes we end up associating with people that we don't want to be with, in relationships or at work or socially. So then, if you don't have the information, if you don't have that certainty, you can actually see that things might actually go quite wrong. All right. So thank you for that example. Very good. Lauren, okay, dentistry exams coming up soon, and it's scary because I've never done the exam before. Right. Okay, good. So here, you may not have the knowledge, okay, of what that exam or what such an exam actually entails, right? So then you feel like, okay, I'm not sure if I'm going to do well with this, right? Okay, good, cool. So before we go to the next slide, I have another question for you. Like I said, I'm asking a lot of questions, but I really like the fact that you guys are so much participating. Keep it going. See that Myron wants to join. Fantastic. A lot of people coming in. Okay, good. Here's a tricky one. Here's a tricky one. Have you ever seen somebody causing something and then clearly deny it? Have you ever seen a person doing something, causing something, and then later on, shortly after, totally deny it? So, well, I had nothing to do with it. Have you ever seen that? Oh la la, Anita, you say my manager. That is incredible. Okay, not too good, right? I'm sure you have a certain opinion of your manager. All right, Mika. Mika, do I pronounce your name correctly? I'm just assuming you're Dutch, just like me, because it's such a Dutch name. But you might be coming from another country. Yes, but thank you. Okay, my dog pretended it. Oh yeah, that's cute with dogs, right? Yeah. I love that answer. Yeah, your dogs did something really wrong and then just pretended that didn't do anything, right? Okay, my eldest sister, nearly all my bosses. Oh my God. Okay, good. So you're probably going to love the next definition. Here's going to come: responsibility. So responsibility, yeah, which is basically the willingness to do, which is the willingness to take action, is the willingness to embrace something, is the willingness to own, to have, to do, right? But also to admit that you're doing it, and also to admit that you did it, right? And to admit that you have done it. That would be responsibility. Now we say to admit causing, yeah, you cause something, or you caused something, which is to say you made something happen. Yeah, it sounds a bit better probably than just doing, because by causing we mean that you are cause. Now, let me elaborate on that just a little bit, because it's quite interesting when it comes to procrastination, yeah? So when we, you could say that when a person is really responsible, he has a very, very responsible attitude, and he is actually causing things, you could say he is making life. Now, when that starts to lessen, we go downhill, you get into something which is the opposite. Life makes you, okay? So you could imagine a gradient scale where a person kind of like descends from making life to life makes him. But it can also be reversed. It can also go the other way around. So you probably know the complainers, the moaners, so to speak. The people who are like, look what was done to me again. Look what happened to me. And all these kind of statements. So I don't want to make anybody wrong here, but it indicates that the person feels that life is just pushing him around. He feels kind of like cornered. He feels with his back against the wall. Life is making him. And you will find out that that person is not really causative. In other words, he doesn't make a lot of things happen. Things kind of like happen to him. It's not that he makes things happen. You get the picture? So obviously what we would want, the thing that we want really for ourselves is that we move up from, being cornered. Life is making us, life is pushing us around. Hey, come on, this is planet Earth, huh? It's not an easy place. You turn on the TV, you know what we're talking about, all right? I mean, if planet Earth is not pushing you around, well, I don't know, but I can imagine that you could right away see, yeah, all right, you're being pushed around here by governments and by the tax system and by the economies and what have you. Still, you have a tremendous potential in you. So what we want to do is get a person on a gradient scale more and more and more competent. Have you ever had the idea that you could be more, that you could do more, that you could achieve more in life? You were absolutely right. Something is holding you back, right? And whatever is holding you back can actually be resolved. And that's 100% truth. I'm actually speaking from experience. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here tonight. Okay? So we want to go from a position where life makes you to making life. Here, you have full responsibility. And here is where you got a person, he will admit cause. And the opposite of cause obviously would be effect. So what does effect mean? Very simple. The person is being hit by life and he's just on the receiving side. The person who's cause simply make things happen. Yeah, quite simple. All right, good. Now, I have another question for you again. I hope. Omika, you're not Dutch? Okay, pronounced it right. Cool. All right, thank you for that comment. So, let's do another tricky question. Yeah, we're getting to the. We're going to go a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of things. If you look around at work, or perhaps at home, right, or perhaps within your social connections, have you ever seen somebody starting something and then not really continuing with it, leaving it, now doing something else, starting something else, and I kind of like come to the conclusion, it's not too comfortable either. Okay, I'm going to start something new again. And so have you ever seen that? You know, somebody starting something, leaving it, starting something else, leaving it, starting something else, leaving it. Have you ever seen that? Is that you, Macy? Okay, all right. So we should handle that, Macy. And you can. I can tell you, you can. Okay? Anita, you yourself. All right. Adewale. Hey, good to see you again. I do that. Okay. Yeah. So there is this is the typical kind of like procrastination kind of thing, right? So the person actually started, didn't go through all the necessary changes, and then really didn't finish it. Only when you finish it, you will actually have a result. You will actually have a product. So let's say we take a salesperson, and he starts calling a customer, and then he visits the customer. And by the time the customer is ready to buy, he decides that he had better seen another customer. So he doesn't finish it, and he starts something new all over again. You can actually see that he has some difficulties there with finishing something. For some people, you might see that, you know, they're dreamers. Say, oh, you know, I have this idea. If we just do that, we would just conquer the world. And they're all about starting something and starting something else, but they never actually go into change. They never go into, okay, well, let's go to the next step and pursue it all the way and get to an end result. And they say, okay, no, I'm just a dreamer. I'm starting the whole concept, the whole idea. The execution is for somebody else. Right. So what we see is that if you would start something and then change and then, you know, do something else again and leave it behind and you start something new again, you could actually see that you're not really in control, not really in control of whatever it is that you're doing. And it will show right away that you feel insecure, right? You feel insecure because there's something there that you don't know. So we're going to go to the next slide, which is all about control. All right, let me see. Ping. I do. Okay, I even set a reminder every day for me. Cool. All right. Can we have the next slide on control? Let me see what pops up on the screen. Okay, good. All right, so what is control? Control is the willingness to start, change, and stop. There's three parts of control. The ability to start something, and then to continue with something, and then to stop. It looks a little bit like a wheel. I'll give you an example. So what I'm going to describe for you is what you could call a cycle of action. Cycle of action. Let's say you take a wheel. And you want to get the wheel from point A to point B. So you're going to get the wheel, you're going to give the wheel a push, which is to say you started. And it's going to roll. And just keep on pushing it, and then here, there, over there, you're at the end. So in between, you have change. Now that's very easy to see. You get into your car, you start the car, you start the engine, you put it in gear. That's starting, right? Now you start maneuvering it. and you put it at some point where you actually have it in another parking lot. And you would say, okay, well, you know what? I was controlling my car. So you would say that control is the willingness, really, to start something and to go through all the necessary changes to get the end result. And you would say you're in control. Okay, I'm going to give you an example on that. Very, very similar to the example that I just gave you. Yeah. So maybe you've seen this with a boss. Have you ever seen a boss that, or maybe a boss, whatever, you know, a person. Have you ever seen a person that gave an instruction to somebody and then changed his mind? Said, no, actually, I want you to do something else. And then give another instruction. And then kind of like changed his mind again and give another instruction again, just driving the other person insane. Have you ever seen something like this? Maybe not 3 times in a row, but you know, you maybe saw somebody that gave an instruction to somebody and then changed his mind and gave another instruction. Have you ever observed such a thing like that? It's time for me to have a little tea. Lauren, yes, okay. My university kept saying our dining hall would open next month, and then next month, but it didn't. Yeah, voila, perfect example. Yeah, perfect example. Okay, Anita, help by other managers. Good. So now ask yourself the question: is that person really in control? So let's say I would ask you. Could you write 3 words in the chat? Right? I could ask, could you write 3 words in the chat? So that would be an assignment, right? So it would be a start. Could you write 3 words in the chat? Now, as long as nothing happens, I might be able to encourage you more. You have to just simply put 3 words in the chat. In other words, we go through change. At some point, a lot of people would have responded and said, all right, you know, everybody put 3 words in the chat, and we get to the end result, which is a start, change, stop. And you would say, okay, well, that person seemed to have a pretty good control. Now, if somebody doesn't really allow you to finish that cycle of action, you say, hey, you know, this control was really bad. This control was really bad. Actually, it will feel quite bad. If a person gives you an assignment, sends you on your way, and then in the middle decides, no, you should be doing something else, and gives you another assignment, well, that person did not let you finish the whole thing that you started. So it's going to be very, very frustrating for you if you can't finish something. You see what I mean? That would be a cycle of action unfinished, and whatever you start but feel you cannot push through and you cannot end, that actually leads to more and more and more frustration, and you get the idea that that you're not really in control. Good. So now maybe you could actually put we can do the KRC triangle once more. Now let's see where this is going. So we're back to the triangle, yeah? We're back to that. So now we see knowledge, which is, okay, you learned about things, and that will give you the certainty. Then we have the responsibility, which is the willingness to make things happen. And there you have the control, which is, okay, I can bring it off from the beginning till the very end. Okay, so let's take a very practical example. Let's say you're going to be starting in a restaurant as a waitress or as a waiter, but you've never been in a restaurant before, and you're just scared shitless. you're nervous. You're like, your legs are shaking. You feel very, very insecure. You don't know where to start. You got this tablet here. You got to put the orders in the tablet, and like, okay, well, how does this work? And then, okay, now you actually have to walk over to a table, and there's a couple, and they seem to be a bit grumpy. So, oh my God, how am I going to deal with these people? Okay, now, what will happen? You can actually start with that triangle and say, you know what? I'm actually willing to take a little bit of responsibility for this. I'm willing to make something happen, whether it hits me in the face or not. If it hits me in the face, well, so be it. So you can start with, for example, a little bit of responsibility. Take some responsibility. Say, all right, you know what? Give me that tablet. Let me walk over to those people and see how I can help them. So you take the responsibility to start, and you're going to get some knowledge. You're going to get some knowledge from this. You have this first interaction with customers, and your first observation was that they were grumpy. But now actually that you walked over, they seem to be quite nice. So now you know, hey, maybe grumpy customers aren't always grumpy. Actually, they can also be quite nice. You gain some information, actually some certainty, by taking the responsibility. All right. So now you put the order on your tablet, and you can actually discover for yourself that, hey, you know what? I'm actually getting a little bit more control here. So by doing things, what you will see is that these 3 points in a triangle, they interact. The moment, for example, that you get more knowledge. Let's say we take another example. Or let's say, yeah, we take the same example, but we take it from another corner of the triangle. Let's say, you know what? I'm going to learn a little bit more about people. I'm going to learn a little bit more about how to associate with them, how to communicate with them, how to improve my communication skills. So let's say you do a course in communication skills, and now you feel, hey, you know what? I can better control people. I can take that chair and say, well, sit down, please. And you learn something about, well, your line of work, and you'll feel, hey, I actually start to get a bit more control. And now your willingness to take responsibility will go up as well. So we can turn this around, and you could see that, you could leave the triangle in for a second. So you can actually see that. I'm going to read this. So give me a second. So let's say you have no knowledge at all. Let's say you have no knowledge at all. Obviously, it becomes a bit silly to control something, right? It's a bit hard also to take responsibility, right? It's kind of folly to try to control something or even know something without responsibility. It's hard to fully know something or be responsible for something over which you have no control. Yeah. So you actually see that these things interact. Now, little by little, not in one fell swoop, but little by little, you can actually make things go right by increasing your knowledge, by increasing your responsibility, by increasing control. So in other words, get more knowledge about that thing that you don't know about. Let's say you know nothing about interacting with other people. And sometimes you get the idea like, you're really associating with the wrong people. Well, get some more knowledge. Get some more knowledge, and you'll find out, hey, I got my life a little bit more under control. If you do have more knowledge, then do more practice. Do more practice and do more practice, and you start to feel more control. And the willingness to cause something to make something happen, that of course will increase as well. So in other words, here we have that triangle. You raise one corner of the triangle, all the other corners will actually follow suit. Good. I'm going to read you something from a book. That is a book I'm going to show you at the end of the webinar. So we're going to keep this a little bit of a mystery here. Let's see, I'm going to take you to page 67. All right, and this is a chapter on life as a game. Let me see, we got 15 minutes. Let me see if we can actually get that through. All right, so life as a game. It's quite obvious that if anybody controlled everything, you wouldn't have a game. So if you would have a total control, let's say you're on the soccer field, right? Well, you're in total control of the entire game. You could just pass and dribble everybody, you know, and just score one goal after another, which is like, well, you might as well not have an opponent. You wouldn't have a game, right? It's quite obvious that if anybody controlled everything, you wouldn't have a game. So there wouldn't be any unpredictable factors. There wouldn't be any surprises in life. So if one could control everything absolutely, he would, of course, be able to predict everything absolutely. And if he could predict the course and action of every motion in the entirety of existence, he would, of course, have no real interest in it, right? Just like the game I just mentioned. So here's a fun fact. In order to have any interest at all in life, there must be things that you actually are in control of, and there must be things that you're not really in control of to keep the excitement there. So let's say we take the waitress example again. You definitely want to be in control of the tools of the trade, but then maybe, you know, sometimes just for the fun of it, you want to experience something brand new, and that was something that you didn't control yet, right? And so we're actually going to have a look at life as a game. So, and life, let's say we were going to compare it to football. Yeah, it's not really easy to see life as a game when you're forced to arrive. For example, before the sun rises, and when you get home after dark. Yeah, when you're just doing hard labor, hard work, and it seems like it's really unrewarding. How could you actually call that a game? Yeah. However, if you look at the elements of a game, you will actually have the same elements that you actually find in life. So we're going to put up the next quote, and that quote is also from this book, which is "Life is a game." So, life is a game. A game consists of freedom, barriers, and purposes. Good. So let's take let's just take the field. Let's take the game of soccer, right? Or American football, or tennis, whatever it is. Just any game. Yeah. And there's always a purpose there. The purpose is to win. The purpose is to gain something, right? The purpose is to get better. And you will see that in order to do so, you actually have to overcome the barriers. You have to defeat the opponent. In war, it would be you have to defeat the enemy, right? And then if you do so, you will actually gain certain freedoms. Now you can see right away that if you have an unlimited freedom in life, let's say you're living on welfare, but the welfare makes you a millionaire, right? and you would have no challenge whatsoever. Well, some people will indulge in that. Yeah, for sure, we can understand that. But you will also probably understand life might get pretty boring because there's no challenges there. There's nothing really to do. There's nothing really, that hits you by surprise. So there's an absolute absence of barriers, and it would be like a total freedom. It almost seems like a nightmare. You could also have too many barriers. So my gosh, my rent, I can hardly pay it, let alone that I could even eat. And the transportation is unaffordable, and the taxation is too rough on me, and what have you. Life is just posing so many barriers for me that it seems to be very, very difficult to overcome. So now you look at work, for example, and you have these same elements there again. You have a purpose with your work, which is probably your income. But maybe, and here's the key thing, you can like that game, or you may not like that game at all. So if you like that game, then maybe you're really into, okay, let's make the company grow. Let's steer it into the right direction. And you like, maybe not always, maybe you like certain barriers. Maybe you don't like certain barriers, right? But you know that if you do a good job, it will result in freedoms. You're going to get holidays. You're going to get days off. You're going to get rewards. You're going to get commendations. You're going to get your salary. You're going to get promotions, and so on. You're going to get a career, right? Those will be freedoms. If that game that you're playing there at work isn't your game, then probably the only thing that you would see is barriers, right? So if we just look at these elements, right? Let's say you're working because you want to have the salary and you want to save up the money, and with that money you're going to buy a house, you have a garden, and so on and so on. You'll see that every time, again and again, you're running into barriers. You follow your purposes, and it's going to give you freedoms. Now, if you look at these three elements, I'm going to have a question for you. If you look at these three elements of life, of the game, freedom, barriers, and purposes, what is the thing that most bogs you down? What is the thing that takes the most of your attention? Is the freedom? Is the purpose? Is the barriers? Yeah. What is the thing that that takes most of your attention? Lauren, purposes. Okay, that's amazing. Anybody else? Good. So I'm not gonna barriers, Anita. Okay, good. Okay, so if we procrastinate, or if we have that tendency to procrastinate, then what we see most likely the most is the barriers. Hey, I need to make phone calls, but I'm not good at that. Boom, it's a barrier. Hey, I need to talk to my colleague, but he's a bully. I don't know how to talk to him. That's a barrier. Hey, I need to close this customer, but I'm afraid to ask for his order. You see, a barrier. So here's the thing. So if you look at the barriers, are we normally looking at real barriers, or do we see imagined barriers? What do you think? Would it be real barriers or more imagined barriers? By the way, anybody who thinks that the answer to the previous question, what is it that takes most of our attention? If you had this idea, barriers, you actually nailed it, because that's true for humanity. Most people, save the very, very competent people, And you actually belong to that group, but you may still have to discover your true competence. Yeah, but the truly competent people, they look at purposes, and they just see the barriers as challenges. Now, people who are a bit more doubtful may just look at the barriers and see, okay, my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. So, indeed, Ping Tao, yeah, most of the time it is imagined barriers. Good. So we have a few more minutes, and I'm just going to give you a little example of these barriers without going into it. So we discussed the KRC triangle, we discussed life as a game. The whole idea here with life as a game, if you have a job, if you do like it, you might be able to see it as a game. Yeah, when you overcome the barriers in the direction of your purposes, you could probably see it's going to result in freedoms. That is the motivational part behind it. And when you do overcome these barriers, then you will find out you learn something, you get some knowledge. And with that knowledge, you'll find out, hey, I have a little bit more control. And the next time, your responsibility will have come up again. Yeah, it is an ongoing cycle where you actually challenge yourself. You could make a whole list of things on a gradient that you could do from not difficult to more and more difficult, and take on these barriers, learn something, get some more knowledge and certainty, resulting in feeling more in control, right? Being willing to take more responsibility. You grow as an individual. So step by step, you can actually increase that triangle, overcome more barriers, and gain more freedoms. Let me see. Crash down the barrier, like with the car. I love knowledge. That's great, Lauren. Okay, good. Sometimes you don't find out if you don't try. That is very true. Yeah, that's the truth of the matter. Now, I want to say one last thing about these imagined barriers, because that is a terribly interesting subject. Yeah, there's one thing that will be very, very good to know more about, and it's actually you. You need to know more about you. You need to know what is your true competence, and what is it exactly that is holding you back. You probably realize that there's something there that is holding you back. Now imagine you use all that power to stop yourself from going into action. What if you could revert that? Well, let me tell you, the answer is right there. The answer is there waiting for you. All that power that you use to stop yourself can actually be reverted. And it could actually be to your own advantage. Now, you probably are familiar with Albert Einstein. He once said, we're only using 10% of our potential. Well, if you're using only 10% of your potential, where's the 90%? Well, that is the big lid that you use to stop you from knowing you. Once you actually know yourself, once you know what's holding you back, and I can tell you that information is available. The information is available to take the lid off and to release that 90% on a gradual scale, so that life can become more and more a game for you, that the barriers, especially the imagined barriers, fall away, so you can actually reach your purposes and gain more freedoms. Now, it's 9 o'clock. I'd love to talk more. I hope you really got something out of it. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to end off with a very, very special offer. And since it is summer, And since we're not with a humongous crowd, because this offer we cannot afford to give away to thousands, but we can certainly give it away to tens of people, is the following. What I've been telling you tonight is some stuff that I got out of this book. It's called The Problems of Work by the #1 New York Times author, L. Ron Hubbard. This guy is 3 times in the Guinness Book of Records. He did a lot of a study on the mind, did a lot of study on life, also on work, procrastination, and what have you. You got 8 chapters in this book to help you, well, for example, how to build better relationships, how to be more confident in communication, how to know who you can trust, more about control, how you can control things better, be more organized, be more efficient. You can actually get a lot out of this book. It's quite simple to read. It even got pictures, as you can see. It's quite an easy read. It's very, very to the point, and it's going to give you some answers right away that you can use. The link is going to pop up now. I'm just going to zip on my ginger tea again. I'll let you have a look at it for a minute. Yeah, indeed, Lauren. It's quite good. I got 2 bags of ginger tea in here. I got cayenne pepper. I got cloves and honey, and it's actually super tasty. Pepper, yes, but cayenne pepper, the red pepper. Good. So, all right. So, what is the offer? This book is normally 17 euros, guys. It's normally 17 euros. We're actually selling it tonight, and there is a timeline where it's only available for the next half hour, which is to say it's 9 o'clock right now, a few minutes past 9. The offer stands up till 9:30, and tonight you're going to get that book for just 10 euros. That even includes shipping. For anybody who's living in the USA, send us a message, because we may need to work something out for you. What I can say right now, I can basically just offer this this book to people in Europe. For United States, we may have to work out something different, but definitely, if you do know, then if you do want it, please drop a line in the chat. We can see if we can make something happen. Okay, guys, so let me see what is what's in the chat. Mika, thank you. Okay, Mika, maybe you want to reveal where you're from, because I haven't figured it out. I thought, okay, good. Maybe you're from Scandinavia, or maybe if you're from Belgium, or I have no clue. But anyway, it's interesting. Happy I pronounced your name correctly. It might have been from a whole different country, like you said. Okay, Macy Tai. Okay, thank you. It's very informative. What a whole different point of view from what I thought. Okay, let me start imagining that pile of laundry that needs ironing is a mini game in my game of life. Okay, and the people around me may be in the NPC. Fill me in. I'm Dutch. I've only got 2 years in Ireland. NPC, no clue yet, but that would be NCY. No clue yet, but NPC, or maybe you can fill me in. A non-playable character. Look at that. Okay, my colleague just filled me in. Thank you for that. It's great. It's fantastic. Okay. Lauren, okay, this was so fun. Okay, too excited to sleep almost. All right, crazy. Okay, fantastic. Cool. Okay, Mika. Okay, you're from Canada. Okay, and you live in Canada, I suppose then, yeah? Nice. Never been to your country though, but would love to. Okay, Lauren. Yeah, so glad this book is simple to read. You know, Lauren, that's the funny thing. You know, we're all familiar with this guy that that came up with the law of gravity, right? So, and his name is Isaac Newton. Yeah, Isaac Newton. Just imagine that Isaac Newton would actually have written an encyclopedia on gravity. And like I said in the beginning, you know, mental health, it just runs around the bush and never comes to an answer. sometimes, right? Often, right? So imagine that Isaac Newton had actually written an encyclopedia on gravity. Well, you know what? He actually formulated in a single sentence, right? Maybe he did a little manuscript on it. And gravity is very, very, very simple to understand. So it just tells you, you know, like a book doesn't have to be thick to you know, to hit it on a nail, to hit home, right? To be very, very, very accurate. Everything is simple once it is understood. You'll find out you're going to get a lot of answers from that book pertaining to your life, pertaining to who you're associating with, the games that you're playing in life, your own efficiency, your own competence. It's a fantastic read. Cool. Non-playable character. Yeah, I learned something new tonight. That's great. Okay, you see. Also for me, you know, I had 3 days where that were actually quite exhausting, and I was like, oh my God, you know, tonight I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to do this webinar. It's too much. I should go home and I should sleep. But then, you know, you got that little willingness to just make it happen, to make it go right. Yeah. Which is that it starts with that little jump, you know, okay, well, let's take some responsibility. And what do you know? Okay, all of a sudden you learn something, right? When you actually feel, okay, you know what, I got some more control. And to be honest with you, this thing about procrastination, I had some doubt, but because I had not really done a webinar, a serious webinar on procrastination before, right? So you can imagine, all right, get some data together, see how it lines up, and in the end, you know, going through something, you'll get the hang of it. Life becomes more pleasant. Life becomes more enjoyable because you're facing the barrier. This is the first step, right? You're taking the barrier, and what do you know? It results in some more freedom. That more freedom might even be a good feeling. Okay, so I'm happy I was able to share some stuff with you tonight. Remember, the book is on a €7 discount. Gosh, shall I tell you something? What I think? It might be the very, very first time that you actually do an investment in yourself. You know, you might have bought a house, you might have a mortgage, you might have bought a car, you might have a nice Apple computer or what have you, right? That's all materialistic stuff. This is the stuff that is for your own mental health. This is the stuff that actually helps your sanity, that helps your competence, that helps you the trust and the confidence in you. Yeah, that's a very good investment in you. It's not an investment in something on the shelf. That's something you want to use in your life. Okay, guys. So I think I talked enough. I was very happy to see you tonight. I hope to see you again next week. I can't really tell you yet what we have in store. It's probably another interesting title. We'll make sure we'll share some interesting data again for you. Like I said, it's first time we do €7 off. Not sure if we're going to do it again the next time. Get yourself a copy, read it, apply it. You'll find out it works. Once again, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. It was fantastic to have you. Hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.